Guys, it's Kirsten with March Party of Six. I am going to share with you in today's podcast some stuff that is hitting real close to home in today's society and a lot of families, but it's also really sad to talk about because it's something that I recently experienced myself. Um, we all know in this country, drugs, especially opiates, are a huge epidemic. It's something that doesn't seem to be getting much better, and it seems like it is affecting every family, whether you're rich, poor, black, white, Christian, not Christian. I mean, it's just all around. Um, Last podcast I did, I talked about toxic family, and I talked about some of my mom's family that the issues that we had and the past dealings and what really made me stop dealing with some of them. Well, my mom is one of five, and she has two older siblings and two younger siblings. And her baby brother has been in and out of the system his whole entire adult life. Unfortunately, it started, in his teens. He, started hanging out with the wrong kinds of people and, found himself in and out of, trouble and really just got caught up. My mom told me years after the fact that my biological father was one of the people who got my uncle into some of the things that he did and kind of guided him into some tough areas. And that was a lot for me to swallow because I recently lost my biological father, about 3.5 years ago. I say recently, it's not really recently, but, it still hurts, it's still fresh. He died of liver failure, which was brought on by several years of intense drinking and I'm sure some drug use in there. He was the kind of man that you love to hang out with, love to have a beer with, love to laugh with, but just took it. He just had a problem. I mean, he was an addict, and he just never was really able to walk away from it in time to live a healthy lifestyle and to live past his early 50s. He passed away when he was 52. So my uncle has been in and out of prison, like I said, since he was 18. Um, has a huge heart, definitely means well, definitely wants, people to see the good in him, but I really think that he just couldn't see the good in himself. So my uncle got out of prison this past summer, and when we when I met him, for the first time, pretty much in, I don't know, at least 10 years, I want to say, maybe more. I really had a good feeling about it. I really felt like he had started to round a corner where he was ready to be an adult. He was ready to be, a responsible individual, and he was ready to, you know, do good in his life. Now, my mom's older brother offered my uncle a place to stay, helped him, get established, basically just to get him ready for the real world and what the real world consists of. When you're in prison, I don't think that they really teach you how to be successful on the outside. I think that prison is, punishment, and you're there to do your time, and I'm sure there's programs and things you do on the inside, but I don't think someone that has been in and out of jail as much as my uncle has really gets it, gets the fact that you have to go to work, 40 plus hours a week. You have to pay your bills. You have to have car insurance. You have to have health insurance. Like the things that he didn't have to worry about when he was in jail, he now had to face. And, I I think that's very scary. I think that's something that if you're not used to doing these things day in and day out, it can be overwhelming to anybody. But, to you and I, we don't think twice about it because it's something we've been doing for years, and it's something that it's just second nature. You get up, you go to work, you pay your bills, you come home. The next day you get up, you pay your bills, you go home. I mean, it's a repeat, situation, repeat lifestyle. Well, my uncle gets out of prison, gets a job. Small world, gets a job with somebody who my husband and I met on our honeymoon, which I thought was kind of like crazy, like all the people in the world, and he gets a job with someone that we know. And he seemed like he was doing really well. He was working, doing that job, and then he was doing some stuff on the side for his boss, and really seemed like he was working a lot, and really seemed like he was, just getting the hang of everyday life. Well, everybody knows when you have addictions or you have your past and you have your demons that you're facing, you can't go back to the people that got you into those situations to begin with. If you're an addict and you go away to rehab and your boyfriend or girlfriend was who you used your drug with and who you partied with and who you did things you shouldn't do with, you can't go back to that person. You got to wipe your slate clean, and you got to start fresh, and you got to find more positive people and more encouraging people to be around, because you're fighting a battle every day that's going to make you want to go back to the lifestyle that got you in the mess in the first place. So my uncle started dating, and he started, hanging out with, this woman. And my mom and I both kind of were leery. I saw pictures of her, and my uncle was, posting stuff and on Facebook. And, my uncle, it's funny when someone who's been incarcerated and someone who's been out of touch with the world and doesn't really know much about technology is on Facebook and is posting, because they don't really get what the social media aspect means. They're kind of posting like, hey, I went out to dinner today. I had a steak. It was good. I walked down the street and got a paper. I read it front to back. Facebook's more their diary as opposed to just, a way to keep in touch with people and a way to make new friends and a way to network and, what most people use, Facebook for. And the girl that he started dating, she definitely wasn't someone that we thought was a good fit for him. I know that I had messaged him myself, and I asked, what she was like and if he was keeping his nose clean. And, he swore to me that he had, that he had a girlfriend he really cared about, and he was happy and everything was good. And, while they went to the bar, they weren't, there was nothing more to it. And, I didn't think I really believed it, but I can't go around accusing somebody of something that, it's not my business. It's not my place to jump down someone's throat when, he's just trying to live his life. But long story short, he stopped dating this woman, and to my knowledge, wasn't really dating anybody. Saw him around New Year's Day. We had a family function, and didn't really get a chance to talk to him much because he got there late, and we were on our way out when he was coming home. He had to work. Chatted with him a little bit, and he didn't look bad. He didn't look as good as he did when I saw him, over the summer. But I mean, you're working a lot, you're busy, get caught up. I mean, maybe you're going to look worn out. Fast forward a couple weeks from New Year's, my aunt had her birthday, and my mom went up there with my dad to help celebrate. Had dinner. My uncle was there, and he didn't look good. He looked like he was on something. Looked like he was very paranoid. Felt like he was hiding something. And when questioned, he just denied, and it just we could tell something was going on. We just weren't sure. So I reached out to him about a week and a half ago, and I I said to him, I said, where you been? I haven't heard from you. Like, you haven't texted, you haven't called, you haven't Facebooked. Like, it's like you fell off the face of the earth. And he said, oh, I just been busy. I've been working. I've been working a lot. I worked 2 jobs, and I guess he has a new girlfriend. Well, nobody really knows, what he's doing when he's not at work, but they know that the girlfriend is not, not good news, and I guess she's someone from his past, and just not someone that he should be hanging out with. Well, I kind of gave him a hard time, kind of gave him some shit, and didn't really believe, that he was just busy and, work and all that stuff. And, I kind of let it go at that. Well, the next morning, I got the worst text that I could have gotten, in the time. And my mom said, he's gone. Your uncle's gone, and he's dead. And I just, I read the text, and I just, immediately, started crying and tearing up. And I called her and I said, what happened? And, she was upset, and she said that he was with a friend, the girlfriend, and he was passing out. And, I guess when they pulled over, he fell out of the car, and she went to get my other uncle for help, and they tried to administer CPR, and it just wasn't working. And he was pronounced dead at the hospital shortly thereafter. And, it was awful. My aunt, who is an emergency room nurse, God love her, she sees death and despair often, was there. She was there when he took his last breath, and so is my uncle. And, I'm glad that he didn't die by himself, because we always knew in the back of our minds that we were going to get a call, whether he was going to get incarcerated again, or someone was going to hurt him, or he was, essentially going to hurt himself. I immediately, started questioning things, started asking questions. Who is this woman that he was with? What does she know? What happened? Now, drugs were found on him. Drugs were found in his vehicle. Drugs were found in a bag that he had. And I mean, there was just drugs all over the place. And, serious drugs, meth, heroin, things that can very well kill you, whether you try it once or you try it 1,000,000 times. I really was surprised that that was something that they found on him. I really just, in the back of my mind, just wanted to think, hey, if he's going out and he's drinking here and there, hopefully he's not doing serious hardcore drugs, because, I mean, he's got a history of it, and his health isn't the best. And, lo and behold, he essentially died from cardiac arrest, but all the other stuff brought on the cardiac arrest. So there's an open investigation going on, and everyone is questioning the girlfriend, and wants to know who supplied the drugs and who was involved, because it almost looks like he was left for dead. They knew what was happening, and they were going to dump him and not deal with it, because they didn't want to be held responsible. Now, the investigator in me started messaging everybody on his Facebook, anybody that may or may not have information. I messaged his ex-girlfriend, I messaged friends, I messaged coworkers, just trying to find out information. And the ex-girlfriend claimed that she left him because he had a heavy drinking problem. But we read about her in the paper that she's, busted for dealing drugs. She's obviously a liar and deceitful, and isn't telling the truth. I messaged the new girlfriend, and she gives me this long song and dance about how he was her everything, and he was her one true love, and she never saw him do drugs, and she never, she to her knowledge, she didn't know that he did do drugs, and she's just surprised. And I have to say that I really don't believe that. I don't believe that she didn't have a clue what he was doing. He was up for hours on end, and I mean, you can't be up unless you're doing serious. I mean, everyone's done their share of stupid stuff. I mean, you do certain drugs, keep you up for hours and hours and hours on end. I mean, you do other drugs, and it makes you pass out, and you're out of it. We just don't know what happened. Um, I'm still really upset. I went through all the emotions. I went through anger first. I went through sadness. I went through, blame. I went through just, why? Why did you throw your life away? Why did you do this? Why did you not try harder? Why would you leave this mess in your family's hands? Why would you not try to do better? And, I don't have the answers for that. I don't know what kind of hand he was dealt in life, but I feel like he just never felt loved. I don't think he felt that he really had anybody. I think he always was a loner, and I think he was just used to being by himself. And, it's a shame because, ironically, my father died at 52 and my uncle died at 52 as well. One thing I'm grateful for is that my grandmother wasn't alive to see her baby die, because that would kill anybody. I don't care if you're 80, if you're 100, if you're 30. I don't care how old you are or how old your child is. If you lose a child before it's your time to pass, it probably has to be the worst feeling and the biggest heartbreak ever to have ever experienced. I hope and I pray that I never have to experience the loss of a child and ever see my kids suffer, because I just don't know how people were able to handle that. But talking about this is therapeutic. I needed to talk about this because, I wish there was more I would have said to my uncle. I wish I would have talked to him more. I didn't know that last conversation that I was going to have with him would be the last. I talked to him in the afternoon, and then he died sometime, late evening, almost the next morning. And I'm still just shocked. To a man that I've always wanted to have a relationship with, and I've always wanted to get to know, and I just wasn't able to because he's never been here. He's always been in jail. I just don't know why. And if I could see him again and I could talk to him, I would just want to know, why did you feel that you couldn't just live a normal life and be around people that loved you? Why do you feel like you had to be around people that don't care and obviously just dumped you like you were trash and didn't care that something was, bad was going to happen to you? Like I said, there's an open investigation, and we will find who supplied these drugs, and we will find who, was with him, because they need to be held responsible. I firmly believe when you use a drug, you're making a choice. When you decide to drink, you're making a choice. Everything you do is about choices. I'm not taking away the fact that he chose to do these kinds of drugs and essentially killed him. I'm saying that somebody supplied him and somebody encouraged this man to do this. And the epidemic in this country is real, and I really feel like these drug dealers and these grimy, disgusting individuals that are feeding these drugs to people, for money and power, that they need to be held responsible. They need to be held accountable. That vial of heroin that my uncle was injecting into his veins could have been given to a small kid, could have been given to a teenager, could have been given to someone who had not a clue what they were doing. And it, not to take away from the fact that my uncle was, older and wild and did the things he did. It just, it could have been someone else too. And it very well is being somebody else as we speak. I just want awareness, and I want people to know that it's about choice, and it's about wanting to do better and wanting to make better decisions. And if you can't do it by yourself, try to get the support you can from anyone that you love or care about, and that loves and cares about you, because nobody's alone. You just have to know that you can talk to somebody. You have to know that somebody has your back, and you have to know that you are worth it. And I think that that's the problem. I think people don't think they're worth it, and they just don't care, and they do these things, and then they get so wrapped up that they just can't get back out, and they can't overcome it. So I just wanted to share that this week, because it's so fresh in my heart, and it's still there, and I still struggle. And I just hope that, if you have an issue, you have an addiction, you have any problems like this, that you don't feel like you can't try to help yourself or get help, because it's never too late. The only time it's too late is when you're not here on this earth, and you're gone for good. So until next time, guys, I will be looking forward to talking more about my family and other things going on in my life the next podcast. But for now, I hope everyone is doing well, and I just hope that if there's anything you're struggling with, that you can work on it and get the help that you need. All right? Thanks, guys.
This has been a production of the Big Vito brand. Check us out at thebigvitobrand.com.